So low-key, we are living in the worst timeline. Donald Trump is contemplating going to war with Iran. I've been meaning to talk about this for a few days now. He's being pushed by John Bolton. If there's ever, we knew, to be quite honest with you, there have been members of his administration since Michael Flynn who've been pushing for a war with Iran. And now John Bolton has taken the place of Mike Flynn, who had to resign because of his controversy. And now because of some oil freighters that were allegedly attacked by Iran, we are considering going to war. 120,000 troops, or plans for 120,000 troops have been made. And the only thing standing between war, because of how previous presidents have assumed the ability, including Barack Obama, has assumed the capacity and the ability to wage war without a renewed or without a new authorization of use of military force. The only thing standing between war with Iran and is really Donald Trump. And it really just depends on how much he gets annoyed with John Bolton. He's tweeted, our sources are saying that he's annoyed with John Bolton, but you have tremendous pressure coming from John Bolton, yes, but also from Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia has a vested interest in destabilizing Iran. Iran is the only power left in the region that really serves as a threat to Saudi Arabia hegemony. And so MBS, the Crown Prince, is putting his own pressure on Donald Trump. And this is a juncture in world history where we absolutely need Donald Trump to do the right thing, which is why I said we're in the worst timeline imaginable. Can you imagine that the difference between destabilizing a region, even more so than George W. Bush did, is hinging upon the ego of Donald Trump? Because it's really the only thing that could save us. The ego of Donald Trump. Hopefully, he will be annoyed. Hopefully, John Bolton will overstep his privilege. He will speak out of school. You know what I mean? He'll go one step too far and piss Donald Trump off and piss off the ego of Donald Trump, and subsequently Donald Trump will pull back from attacking Iran. But this is where we are. There's no real check and balance from our Congress because they capitulated to George W. Bush, and they subsequently capitulated to Barack Obama, and they have capitulated to Donald Trump up until this point. But Donald Trump being the only check and balance on us going to war, which technically is not the way it should be, obviously, it really doesn't bode well for the prospect of any peace. Or let me rephrase that. Forget peace. One less war, right? It doesn't bode well for the prospect of us having one less war, because Donald Trump needs this. He needs this war. He needs a war to shore up his support for this upcoming election. So we are at the point where he's getting ready to wag the dog. The worst timeline imaginable. And what can we do about it? Honestly, the only thing we can do is express our dissent, our concern, protest. Usually doesn't have any effect when we talk about the military-industrial complex, but we have to say our piece. We have to do our thing. Meanwhile, cases are getting ready to make their way to the Supreme Court in a direct challenge to Roe versus Wade. I've been talking about that pretty much all week. But we're so vulnerable to these attacks. We're vulnerable to these attacks because money, I've said this before, truth has a liberal bias, but money has a conservative bias. And that's why conservatism is still in the conversation. Otherwise, conservatism would have gone the way of the dinosaur. But they have so much money that they have the ability to plan for almost 40 years. 1973, I finally got the date for Roe versus Wade. They've been planning for over 40 years, right? 45, 46 years to attack Roe versus Wade and get it overturned. They had funding. There are people who were alive then who had the funding and the patience to attack it today. And this is what we're facing. So what do? we have to be strategic. We have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to fund groups that deserve to be funded on the left, the organizations, media outlets that deserve to be funded on the left. We also have to be strategic with our voting. We have to push Democrats to the left. We have to get into these parties and take that party over because they are not up to the task. We do not have enough time. Somebody said to me the other day, we do not have the time to entertain a third party. We do not have enough time. And he was speaking specifically about climate change. We don't have enough time left before the effects of climate change are irreversible to be entertaining a third party when so much of the political capital in this country is, well, when 99.999% of the political capital in this country is divvied up between two major parties. There is time, however, for people to get in there and challenge like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did. Now, AOC admittedly wants to become president, and so she is as edgy as a establishment person can be. And I like her. I still gonna support her. I would rather her be Speaker of the House than Nancy Pelosi, because there are things that are happening around us that deserve and require a very strong response with no fear. We need people discussing court packing. We need people discussing or actually implementing an impeachment of Donald Trump. We need an all-out assault on conservatism from one of our two major parties. And right now, we don't have that. And we don't have time, nor the resources. Hell, we barely have enough resources to do with what we currently have. So we don't have enough resources to fund a third party. And so the only thing that we can really do with that is to literally be the fucking change. Cliche as it sounds, be the change. There are more AOCs out there. There are more Ilhan Omars out there. Preferably more Ilhan Omars than AOCs. Get out there and be the goddamn change, because we have no time left. That's it. We have to, Elizabeth Warren put out a plan today on how my strategy was court packing. We should still consider court packing, but Elizabeth Warren is putting out a strategy to actually pass federal legislation to ensure certain level of rights, including the right for privacy and the ability to obtain an abortion. So that's a strategy as well that we can implement. We need to support that. We need to, whether she becomes a nominee or not, that needs to be something that every candidate needs to pick up. And so what do you do as an individual? You continue to pound the ground on social media, pound the pavement on social media, continue to influence the people in your circle, in your sphere, help them to get the truth, weaponize the truth, take what we say here and put it into talking points that you can use and convince the people around you, because we have a fight on our hands and we don't have time for bullshit. And we got to get out here, because we are, like I said, living in the worst timeline imaginable, when we literally are headed towards a Gilead type society, theocracy from Handmaid's Tale. All right, folks, I wish I could have a more pleasant post for you, but these are the times in which we live. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday.